What's up, JFW family? Welcome back to the Channel 23 podcast. The purpose of this podcast is to reach out and touch the fleet, to engage and inform everyone with all things JFW. Welcome back, Brother Dave. You've been gone for a few weeks.
I have been. The way my vacation schedule fell, I missed the last two podcasts on vacation. So
Yep.
I wish I was really gone that long, but it just fell on the two Wednesdays that we do the podcast. So,
Right.
yeah.
Welcome back, Super Dave, and we got a special guest, Jack Domenico, today.
Good morning.
Welcome, Jack.
Hi, Jack.
Thank you.
Jack, you probably know we kick off with the Pledge of Allegiance. You want to kick that off for us?
Okay. I
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right.
Woo-ha.
As a reminder, anything you hear on today's podcast is not the opinion of JFW's. It's just the opinion of Brother Dave, Super Dave, myself, and Jack Domenico's. Episode 61 had 221 downloads. We're at 22,743 total downloads, and we have 156 followers. So the listens are down. I think it's the holidays.
I think so.
Totally.
People are
like to
busy.
say that.
Yep.
Yep.
The holidays kind of disturb everything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They change your routine. You don't know what day they're going to fall on. The work schedule, just it disturbs everything. You know, you have to do things that you don't normally do all year.
Yeah.
You know, planning parties. I mean, we're still at our house. We're still kind of reeling in from it. You know, we lucked out and we were gone for Christmas, which for me was a win-win. We didn't decorate. There was no tree. I mean, it was like my best Christmas ever as far as that goes, because I'm that guy. You know what I mean? I'm not a Grinch, but it's not fun for me doing all that stuff.
Being gone for so long disrupts everything, though.
True.
And I like a schedule. I like routine. I like structure. So the holidays mess with me. You know, I make it through, and obviously the big pro is more time with the family, which I love. But it's like after a while, it's like, what do I do? You know. So even though the numbers are down, we did pick up Poland a few weeks ago, which I thought was interesting. So
nice.
Poland.
they're in it for the dad jokes.
Yeah, that's it.
Have to be.
Speaking of dad jokes, why are chickens so funny?
I don't know.
Because
Oh, very good, Jim. I like that.
That is hilarious. You know, I should have focused on a chicken joke, because I swear, being in Hawaii, that's where I was at on vacation, that I think Hawaii means chicken in Hawaiian, because those things are everywhere. They're just wild. You know, I mean, you'll see family after family. I mean, there's like the hen, the rooster, and there'll be 8 chicks following right behind. It's kind of crazy. I've always seen them in a you know, you have a rooster and then, you know, 20 hens or something like that, or maybe 2 roosters, and they're familyed up over there. I mean, they have a little deal, and they're just everywhere. I mean, it does not matter where you go. They are everywhere.
that's pretty good, because eggs are becoming expensive, right?
Yeah.
And I just saw a friend of mine posted, she lives in Commerce City. Well, it's illegal to have chickens in Commerce City. You could have them in Adams County, but not Commerce City.
Oh, wow.
She wants to raise her own chickens and have her own eggs, and
Yeah.
she's trying to fight the government on that.
Oh,
So,
man.
yeah.
Good luck.
Jack, you bring a dad joke with you today?
Yeah, I brought a couple, but I don't know if they're very good or not, but we'll try them. What do you call a guy with a rubber toe?
Guy with a rubber toe.
This ought to be a good one.
Roberto.
Roberto, I like it.
And then the next one I have, you know, I grew up on a farm, so we used to sit there on the top of the hill and roll down in tires. Those were good years.
That is good.
That is a good one.
You work on your
I got to thank my wife and my daughter. They came up with
Yeah.
those.
Good dad jokes.
And they came up with them, because I couldn't have come up with that.
I'm going to jump in before Dave, because I've heard his, and it crushes. So I'm like Jack. I have 2 of them. So if a dinosaur kicks you in the backside, what do you get?
Don't know.
A megasaurus. All right, then this one I just stumbled across. It's kind of a story here. So it's labeled Beautiful Women. So this guy is dining alone at a fancy restaurant, and there's a beautiful woman sitting at the next table. He's been sneakily checking her out ever since he arrived, but he doesn't have the courage to start talking to her. Suddenly, she sneezes, and her glass eye comes flying out of the socket towards the man. His reflexes kick in, and he reaches out, plucks it out of the air, and hands it back to her. The redhead, the beautiful woman is a redhead, she says, "Oh my, I am so sorry," she says as she pops right back into place. "Let me buy your dinner and make it up to you." He joins her at the table and enjoys a wonderful meal together. Afterwards, they go to the theater, followed by drinks at the bar. They talk, they laugh. She shares her deepest dreams, and he shares his. She listens. After paying for everything, she asks him, "Would you like to come to my place for a nightcap?" He says yes, and they return to her place. He ends up staying the night. The next morning, she cooks a gourmet meal with all the trimmings. The guy is amazed at how everything has been so perfect and how incredible this amazing woman is. He can't believe his luck. "You know," he said, "you are the perfect woman. Are you this nice to every guy you meet?" She says, "No, you just happen to catch my eye."
Well, that's a good one.
My joke is a doctor joke. A doctor reaches into his smock to get a pen to write a prescription, and he pulls out a rectal thermometer. "Oh, damn it," he says. "Some butthole stole my pen."
I love that one when you told it to me this
That's
morning.
good, man.
That is a good one.
Funny. New employees. We got a couple new drivers started yesterday. We got Rico Christensen and Glaberino Gonzalez. He does like to go by Gonzalez. He made that pretty clear yesterday.
Oh, very good.
So, Rico's got a good last name. It reminds me of Christensen Firearms. So, celebrations, anniversaries. Wow, here's a big one. Jesse Baeza hit 4 years on the 2nd.
Nice. Congratulations, Jesse.
Yeah.
I talked to him personally yesterday and thanked him. He's an amazing young man.
I can't believe he made it. Edwin Ramirez hit 1 year. He's hitting 1 year tomorrow. Johnny Beret is hitting 2 years on the 6th. And Pat Johnson, 3 years on the 7th. Happy
Nice.
anniversary, everybody. And
Yeah.
Anniversary.
like to wish Pat get well soon. He's not feeling well these last couple days.
Definitely.
Birthdays, JR, he's turning 40 on the 5th. Just kidding. He's not turning 40. And then Andrew Martinez has a birthday on the 6th. Happy birthday, guys.
Yeah, happy
Happy
birthday.
birthday.
Family birthday celebrations, January 1st, New Year's Day. Monica Aquendo. Happy birthday, Monica. Gene Freeman's son, Wes, is turning, well, I don't know how old he's turning, but he's having a birthday on the 6th. And then Christina Powell, which is Thomas Morgan's significant other, is having a birthday on the 7th. So happy birthday, everybody.
Very cool. Yeah, happy
Happy
birthday.
birthday.
You know those holiday birthdays, that New Year's birthday, those are rough, man. Sometimes you get robbed on that. So many people like throw well, it's Christmas, I'll just, buy a more expensive present and call
Right.
it both or whatever. So
Or not more expensive. Just
Right.
call it both.
right? Yeah, exactly.
My granddaughter was born on January 1st, so
Yeah.
we do it separate still.
Yeah.
Yours
I
and
like
mine both, Jack.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
she turned 2.
She just turned 14.
nice.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
two,
and,
so-
and that's exactly what happened, Jam. They got her a big paddle board, a flat board, whatever they're called, long boards, I don't know, but it was combo, Christmas and birthday.
I don't know.
So,
My wife went out
yeah,
and
she
made
got
sure
robbed.
everything got done. I mean, there was another whole tier of presents for Cambry's birthday.
Her name is Cambria?
Cambry, yes.
Oh,
Nice.
Cambry. Very cool. Nice. Shout outs. Of course, I missed somebody last week. We were giving shout outs to the snow crew, and I missed Chris Beam. Chris Beam was in the backhoe for a couple of days. So shout out to Chris Beam. Richard Garul, he made a comment on Facebook, said he wished everybody Merry Christmas. He's seen the 004 running around. He says it still looks nice and shiny. Did we? I can't remember. Did we replace 004 yet?
Yes.
Yes.
So the old 004, yeah. You won't be
Yep.
seeing it no more. I want to give a shout out to Scooby, Ken, Pat, and JR for this past snowstorm. Those guys all rallied to make things happen. Linda wanted to give a shout out to the Coors drivers for the last storm. That would be Jesse, Dylan, Eric, Charlie, Jason, and David Gayton. And then Gilly, she called him. He came in at the last minute and helped bail things out. So shout out to all those guys.
Very cool.
I wanted to give a shout out to Jorge or George for his awesome drawings. He's been making some drawings for the people in the office, and the guy's super talented.
He is.
I'll have to show you what he. Oh, I actually brought it home. I got a picture of it though, Super Dave. He drew me this really cool Spartan helmet. Yeah, and then he drew Randy. I don't know what he drew Randy, but it's like a really mean character. So he says he puts a lot of thought into his ideas.
I tell you, he is going to work hard to get on the calendar next year.
Oh,
Yeah.
He came to me and showed me some pictures, and I was like, wow, these are fantastic. He goes, I'm an artist, Dave. That's what I do, is I look for lighting and background and all of that. He's like, I'm going to get on that calendar 3 times next year.
you know, he could probably draw a picture and make the calendar,
right?
Because that's how talented he
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
That'd be cool. That'd be cool.
I love when they take a photograph and then draw it.
Oh yeah,
You know what I mean?
photorealism.
Yeah, exactly. I love that.
You know, and I think he's an aspiring tattoo artist too. He's actually tattooed a few people, and
Oh, wow.
he's got connections in the
He is.
industry, and yeah.
He's
Wow.
studying it. That's
Yeah.
the way he does things. He's not going to jump right in. He's going to sit back and study.
Yeah, at what point do you let a new artist tattoo you? Like, I love his drawings, but I'm not letting George stick me with any needles. You know what
You
I
know
mean?
what, Jam? Me neither.
They got to start somewhere, though, right?
Not it.
Not on me.
Yeah.
Mom, can I give you a tattoo? So, Jimmy Villagrana, he wanted to give a shout out. He said, "Good morning, Jam. If you guys are doing a podcast, I want to give a shout out to Omar Santa Cruz for spotting me at CMEX one morning last week. It was really dark, muddy, and unlevel. Also, shout out to Kendrick for always there to lend a hand when needed and with such a great attitude. Gracias, everyone."
Nice.
So, yep.
Nice.
Good shout out. And then John Moore also had a shout out. Let me see if I could pull that one up here. That was really early. Let's see
It
here.
was.
Do you have it pulled up, Brother Dave?
I can't.
Oh, I got it.
Got it?
There it is. Good morning, gentlemen. I want to do a shout out on the podcast for Super Dave for helping me clean out my trailer the other day when it snowed. I also want to thank him for all the great high road hauling messages that he comes up with. Thanks, John. That's Big John and 001.
001.
001.
Oh,
Yes,
wow.
He's got the first
On
truck.
the point. Yep,
Yeah.
001. Well, thank you, John. I appreciate the good words.
Yep.
I also want to throw out there to Joanne, Ann, Amber, and Angie
Oh, yeah.
for setting everything up for the Christmas party last week. That is just no easy task, getting chairs and table coverings and tables and everything delivered and all the food here. And I mean, it just was seamless. You know, I mean, it was like, poof, everything was done and everything was completed and everybody was fed. And man, they just jumped in and worked their butts off during that party. And it's just so awesome to see. I mean, I don't want to ever take it for granted. So thank you for that.
I got to chime in on that too, Dave. The amount of chairs. Oh my gosh.
Right? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a lot of work, and they did such a great job.
Yeah. I
Everything
mean,
was
it
beautiful.
just, seriously, it's seamless and it's easy to take for granted because you just walk out there and it's complete.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's just done. And you're like, oh, that must not have been that difficult. But when you're doing it, it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a lot of work.
Yeah,
I
and
don't
that
know.
Olive Garden was great too.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, Dave.
I don't know who coined the phrase, but the A team with the capital J. Right?
That's it.
Yep.
So they rock it out every time.
They do.
Yeah. If they weren't doing it, we wouldn't have things like that.
Right?
You know
Oh,
what I mean?
hands down.
We'd have a bunch of empty white tables.
Yep.
We'd have some chairs set up in the red.
Yep.
Yep.
Still be oil on the floor. And
Yeah, you know, when you mentioned that, we should probably do a shout out to the shop too, Jam, because
Yes.
they did an amazing job, the shop and the wash bay, cleaning up the
Yeah.
shop and moving everything off the walls. And
that might actually be harder than setting up for
Right.
the party, moving all the tools. And
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, they worked hard. I made a mention to Rich. I said, Rich, you guys did a great job. He goes, well, we did 3 trucks, and then we spent the rest of the day cleaning up the bay.
Yeah,
So
that's
they spent
awesome.
quite a bit of time on that, yeah.
Jack, did you enjoy the party?
I wasn't there because I had that day off. Getting stuff ready for
The podcast?
well,
my,
my granddaughter's birthday and stuff, and so I mean, you know, with living so far north, I was kind of like, it was just a little tough to drive down.
Did you grab a swag pack? Did anybody hook
No,
you
I
up?
didn't. But
Okay, we got to
I
get
definitely
you.
want a calendar.
Yeah.
Yeah, just reach in all these boxes. Grab a
okay, okay. Thank you.
So my last shout out is a no call out shout out. The following people had no call outs for the year. That would be Mitch Brenner, Seabass, Ricky DeLeon, John Dean, John Domenico. Oh, that's why you're here. Chris England, Gene Freeman,
Getting
Rosario Garcia, Casey Guthrie, Gabino Hernandez, Randy Hogue, Troy Holmes, Joanne Leonard, Bob Mardian, Vince Meekens, Paco, Jack Oquendo Mejia, Mikey Peterson, Sergio Portillo, Dwayne Potter, Fred Powell, Jake Riley, Marty Rios, Oswaldo Sanchez. He's never called out, ever, not one time.
Wow.
There's a few guys on this list that's never called out. Scooby, Stingray, Super Dave, Rob White, Dave White, and Jim White. It's nice that the owners never called out. You know what I mean? Way to set the example, guys. Good stuff. Any other shout-outs, guys?
I just want to clarify on the shout out for Jack here that everybody realizes, is that your middle name, Jack?
No, actually, it was just a nickname.
Is that
there
right?
was a few John Domenicos, and when I was born basically on my uncle's birthday, so my dad liked it. But then he had a son named John, and my dad was sitting in the hospital. The way he always told it is he was sitting in the hospital reading a magazine about JFK, and they always called him Jack once in a while. So that's what he told my mom, and gone by Jack ever since.
There you go.
I just use John as a legal name for legal documents.
That's funny. There you go.
Yeah.
Sometimes they call me John, and I'm like, who?
I didn't even catch that. I'm like,
I just
why
bet
is he clarifying that?
I just
'cause
bet
called
everybody's
him
going to
John.
be like, why did
Who's
Jam
John?
call him John? It's
Yeah,
Jack.
so yeah.
Well,
I go
didn't-
by it.
I didn't know that until I was running everybody's MVRs in December, and I'm like, John Domenico. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Right.
My license, all my legal documents got to have
Sure.
John on them. Yeah, so.
This is pretty official up here.
Yeah, okay, yeah, that's it.
All right. So a couple things to go over today. Number one, over at Coors, the readout at the can is incorrect. Even if the can says 25K, start loading because no one knows how much is in the can. So I think when it says, and don't quote me on this because it could be different, but 38,000 is topped out. We actually had a guy go to Coors this morning. He didn't know that the can reading was still off. It said 5,000. He left.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
And ended up topping out. But you know, we can only do so much
Yeah.
if your information.
Yeah.
It's like we always say, reports are only good if you read them and you
Right.
use them, but they got to be accurate to begin with.
Absolutely.
So we are looking for a new Sunday Chorus person. If you're interested in working Sunday Chorus, we could really use your help. You would actually be going into Group A if you did this, so that would be a group change for you as well. But if you work Sundays, I believe you're off Saturdays?
Yeah.
Yeah, so instead of Saturdays, some people enjoy that.
I think they're off on Mondays or Tuesdays, aren't they?
Well, we don't ever do Mondays because that's the biggest call out day, so we never do that.
So Tuesdays.
Yeah, well, Tuesdays or Saturdays is that's your swap. So,
Yep.
yeah.
Linda says, strap your boots on, everyone. Salt loads are about to go crazy, and that's starting right now. I asked her, how many tons of salt do we got coming out of yard 23 today? And she just looked at me. She said, 3,000? So just
quite a bit.
as much as we can get. We won't get 3,000, but yeah, if you don't have anything to do, you're going to yard 23.
Nice.
That's
good,
for sure.
Good problem to have.
Yes,
January.
sir.
That's
Yep.
true.
Yep. Yeah.
And then yard 23 drivers, please don't make a U-turn in front of your spot. Please back in, especially on the south end. Dave, you probably want to talk about this a little bit, so why don't you go ahead?
Yeah, I just tend to see this happen a lot. Is everybody wants to get as close to that parking spot as they can get, and it's in this yard as well. It's in, I think it kind of becomes a common practice. You just drive straight towards your parking spot and then do a U-turn and back into it. And over there at yard 23, we just don't have that luxury. The dirt is still soft on the west side of the shop is what I'm talking about. And when I say the south end of the yard, it's the south end of the yard on the west side of the shop over there. And it's a whole area we had to fill. It was filled when we bought the property, but it was a pond before that, so it's soft underneath it. We're not driving on it a lot. We're not getting it compacted enough, and we had a loaded Coors truck pull in there and try and do a U-turn and then back into its spot. When if you just pull up in front of the shop and then back in over there, kind of S in, and there's tons of room over there because it's every other parking spot. It's not like this yard where you're 6 inches from the other truck. You have a whole truck width on each side of you, so there's tons of room to back in and maneuver instead of, cramming that truck in there in front of its spot and then backing in. So it's just easier, and it's easier on the truck. Just turn around somewhere else and back in.
Yeah.
Could I fill in on that a little bit?
Absolutely.
I just want to touch a little bit on turning to tight in the first place. Back in the day, we had long wheelbase trucks, long hoods, and we would just joke that they would take a football field to turn around. And these newer trucks, they turn on a dime. I was doing a test drive the other day, and the candidate was turning, and he goes, "Wow, these things turn great. They turn so tight." And I said, "You shouldn't turn that tight. It's going to stress out your airlines, your electric, cord on the tractor. Your trailer tires are going to drag. You just shouldn't, even though the truck can, please don't."
Pretend it doesn't turn tight.
Correct. Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah, I had an experience over at the West or Yard 23 the other day. Man, I'm never going to get out of that. The West
It's
Yard.
tough.
Yeah, the other yard, Yard 23. We had ordered some torch, and the torch driver pulls in with a tandem and pup, and he just noses in right into the soft area. And I was talking to Brother Dave, like, we just got a call. This guy needs to get, pulled out and this and that. And I don't have any tow hooks on my truck. And anyway, I go over there, get the skid steer started, and I just go over there and I'm looking, and the guy's like, I should have done this and I should have done that. He's like, I could probably call my yard to road a loader over here. I'm like, or we could just dig your tires out, because he wasn't like down to the frame or anything like that.
Yeah, it wasn't buried.
He wasn't buried, and I didn't know what to expect. So grabbed the shovel. He just watched me and
He didn't help.
shoveled him out, and it took like 30 minutes to finish unloading. And yeah, we got him out of there. But I was just kind of proud that our drivers wouldn't have like called for help right then. They probably would have tried to get themselves unstuck.
Grabbed a shovel.
Yeah, if that was me, nobody would know that I got stuck there.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even want to tell
So,
people.
out of curiosity, how long did it take you to shovel, Jim?
The actual shoveling part was 10 to 15 minutes, maybe. I mean, and I wasn't rushing, because there was no like.
Yeah, he couldn't go anywhere.
He couldn't go
until he
anywhere.
got
and
unloaded.
but
Yeah.
I got him pretty flat. But then he tried the first time and he spun a tire, and we talked through that. I dug him out a little bit more.
So you had to coach him up a little bit, not
Just
to
a little
spin.
bit, and I was like, how long have you worked there? He's a 10-year vet just there, you know what I mean? So he was an old salt dog. He probably been driving his whole life, but yeah, things happen. But yeah, that south corner is super, super, super soft.
Yeah. Yep.
Was it like a single axle tanker or?
No, it was a double axle tandem with the tank, and then he had a pup.
Okay.
And that's the other thing I was worried about, is the chain, no matter how long it is, if you're behind the pup, because I couldn't get in front of him. You know what I mean? Then he'd have to make a U-turn. It was just, I didn't want to be behind him. It just seemed like we were going to cause some damage no matter what. So,
Yeah, it's just amazing what little bit of resistance you put in front of all those tires that will stop the truck.
Right.
It will just spin and you can't move.
Yeah.
You move that resistance, that little bump in front of every tire, and you can just drive right out sometimes.
yeah.
The key is
roll
just
it forward and get over that hump. And
Yep. Don't spin your tires.
Don't spin your
Try not to
tires.
spin your tires.
Yep.
That's something we ran into last night, and I guess I just got to advise on that. It's that time of year. Don't get off the beaten path, especially if there's snow on the road or something like that. If you're not driving where everyone else is driven, don't go there. Stay on the beaten path. Don't pull off the shoulder. It's going to be soft. Could be slick. Could be at an angle and you slide. Could just be a half inch of snow. It could slide you down in the ditch when you try and go. And also, too, in those situations, when you're pulling in, engage that power divider if you know it could be soft. Put the transmission in manual mode. That way, when you've stopped and you go to take off, if you're empty, for example, you're not in third gear or fourth gear, and it just immediately, when it spins those tires, it spins them at such a fast RPM, you've immediately dug a hole.
Right.
It's just instant hole, where if you were in first gear or granny gear, I like to call it, you just realize you're not moving and then you stop. So you haven't dug that big hole.
Absolutely. Yep. Doesn't take much to get stuck, but it takes a lot sometimes to get unstuck.
That is wisely said, Jam.
Over at Plant 12, so the other day it was freezing, and we were sweeping trails out. I did notice some trucks just leaving the yard. You can't load on top of snow. The at this time of the year, if it's down below freezing or below zero, that first load most likely is going to freeze a little bit. But if you load on top of snow, you don't have a fighting chance. you'll be fighting that the whole day.
Oh yeah.
Right. So
It is some weird temperature inversion thing.
yeah, it's just
that
like,
happens.
It's like a flash
scien-
freeze.
Yeah, it's like a scientific experiment that just went bad.
yeah. So even the trucks that did sweep out use a little release agent. Some of those loads were getting a little frozen. But at the end of the day, over at Plant 12, we could see how many frozen loads we had because it all probably warmed up and they were trying to get ready for the next day. We left about 7 piles of material. I'm not talking about tons, but not a good look because that's their block yard. That's where they make blocks and they run through there with a forklift and stuff like that. So please, if you're over at Plant 12, don't dump material or sweep out a large amount of material in the block yard. The block yard is a yard to the left of the road on your way out. We call it the Plant 12 hangout area for other reasons, right?
I just want to be clear on the description because it's been a while since I've been out there. Wouldn't that be directly across from their shop, Jim?
Directly across from their shop. Yeah, you come in
you
the
have
gate.
you have the shop, the road, and the block area.
Yeah. If you're pulling in, the shop's on your left, the block yard's on your right.
Correct.
If you're leaving, it's the opposite way.
Yep.
So I remember when I used to take Batman with me, I let him out over there. That's where I used to let him out. That was like one of the places to go piss or poop or whatever. And there was this big ass, probably 6-foot rat snake or corn snake in there.
Oh man,
Freak both of us out.
that's funny.
If you do have a lot of material, something happens and you need to go dump stuff, we have a really good place you could do that over at Yard 23. So just get with one of the yard managers over there and they'll tell you where to dump it because it's not going to be an eyesore for a plant if we brought it over there.
I just really have to jump in here. I mean, those facilities that you're delivering that material to, they paid for that material.
Right.
Yes.
I would much rather they get that material and they would much rather get that material. I mean, if you call Domino's and you order 2 pizzas and 1.5 shows up, you're probably going to be pissed and complain, right? I mean, I just have to put that out there that, like, you want what you ordered. Those places ordered that material. It's theirs. They want it in the bin or reasonably close. They don't want it 200 yards away where we left it. I mean, it wasn't a good look. And fine, pull down there. That way you're completely out of the way if there's that many trucks. Right. Get out of the way. I understand we've got a struggle. It's that unusual time of year. No matter what the situation is, whether it was inexperience or just didn't plan on it being that cold or whatever the case may be, right? Clean out. Then you can turn right around and drive right back there. It's a couple 100 yards behind you. Pop your gate, raise the trailer up, and dump it out.
Right.
It'll come right out. And let's give that customer experience.
I just had the funniest visual, Dave, of you get the pizza pie, you open the box up, and there are 2 slices missing.
Right.
So you go out, you open your door to see if the driver's still there, and the 2 slices are in the driveway.
Yeah, I mean, isn't that the perfect analogy, though, Jim?
Oh, that's funny.
I mean, when I ordered, 10 chicken wings, I don't want 8. I ordered 10, right?
That's true.
I don't want to find 2 between here and the kitchen.
Yep. Brother Dave, I'm going to let you take the next 2.
Where are we at? I haven't even been following along.
Snow removal.
Oh.
What do we do when it snows?
We do snow removal.
Okay.
Is that a trick question? Dave, what do we do if it snows?
We remove the snow.
Jack, trick question. We do snow removal. What do we do if it snows?
I think you removed the snow, right?
Exactly.
Why are we bringing this up, Brother Dave?
There was just some question on this last storm, and it was a unique storm. It feels like every storm is unique. It depends on what time it comes in, how much we get, what day is it? Is it a holiday? Is it a day after a holiday? Are we supposed to be off work? Is it a work day? Is it whatever? And the bottom line is, everybody, if you're on snow crew and you got the call, we go. If it snowed, we go. We kind of showed up at a few locations, and Jim and I were running around early Monday morning, and JFW was closed in theory, right? All of our customers were closed, but we still do snow removal. So we had to go do the snow removal, and there was only 1 inch of snow a couple of the places we went. But if you put your shoe on the ground and you drug it a foot to the side, there was 2 or 3 inches of snow. I mean, we wound up working all day doing snow removal. So, and then it snowed again Monday night, and we worked all day yesterday. So, yeah, it's snow removal, and that's what we do. We remove the snow.
I'm glad we got a little break. I don't know when the next storm's coming, but
right?
Yeah. It's good to see some dry roads on the way into work.
I agree. I'm ready. I'm ready for the brown to come back.
I know. Everybody
true.
always says, "Oh, it's so brown and ugly." It's like, yeah, I
Yeah,
kind
but
of
that's
like
good.
that.
Right.
Get rid of this white.
Exactly. Yeah.
What about over at Roller, Brother Dave, when we're doing snow removal over there? One thing we noticed was the windrows.
Yeah, so this is probably more for the plows that go over there. And when I do say plows, I do mean some of the skid steers, possibly the backhoe. Typically the loaders and the blade don't go down the little car rows. That's what the snowplow pickups do, or the pickup snowplows, whatever you want to say. We cannot leave a windrow behind those cars. And what I mean by that is when you're going down the aisle, you need to plow the snow in the direction from the car to the center of the aisle, and vice versa. I think we had a few pickups that just drove with the plow straight down the aisle, and it pushed a windrow so close behind the vehicles we couldn't get to it. Well, when that snow freezes and it's a 15-inch tall windrow, if it froze overnight, and
Which it does every night.
Exactly, Dave, exactly. And they take a brand new Mercedes or a Tesla or any car, can't clear that pile.
Right.
So they drive over it, and those guys, what sucks about that is all of those lots, they just don't pick an area and go, hey, we're going to unload these cars here today. No, they have a Mercedes aisle. They have an Acura aisle. They have the Chevy Malibu aisle. They have the Tesla aisle. They have the Ford 250 aisle. They have, they segregate everything. It's all designed. That way they can locate them.
Right.
You know what I mean? They don't just empty what comes off of the train cars and goes, oh, that's where load 27 was. It had a this, it had a that, it had a that. Everything's coordinated, so it is just imperative. We cannot leave those windrows because it'll damage the vehicles. I was luckily able to talk to the manager out there and go, hey, are we going to be all right overnight? Do we have to send somebody out? Because it was New Year's Eve, and I'm just like, man, you never get the call, when it's just a normal business time, right? It's always someone got a hold of someone else, and now it's a problem. So, but we know better than that. Right? We train everyone. We can't do that. So just a little reminder, we can't do that. No windrows out there. Windrow goes in the center of the aisle. Then we have V plows. We have skid steer with the snow bucket on it, multiple vehicles, but you may not be able to clean that aisle or that row from one end to the other. What I try and explain to everyone is you take that vehicle you're in and you actually back over the windrow a halfway or a quarter way or an eighth of the way down the aisle. You drop your plow or your box and you push that out so it's clean. Then you back up again and you take another bite and you carry it out. That way you're removing it. It's a clean process and it's complete that way. So, and sometimes, if we get 4 inches of snow, it's a lot of snow and you have to do that 8 times to clear that aisle. If there's a little bit of snow, you only have to do it 3 times maybe.
So when you're saying a V plow, it actually makes a V. And when you're taking those smaller bites, it doesn't come out on the side, creating more windrows.
Exactly.
Understood.
Yes.
Very cool.
Yep.
Sweeping out after the storm. After a storm, set yourself up for success. What I mean by that is, if you're leaving, we kind of touched on this a few lines up. If you're leaving and you got ice in your trailer, material is going to freeze. The best thing you could do is get down to the liner. And when I mean get down to the liner, once you sweep out, there's a lot of times a thin layer of ice, sometimes a half, 3/8 of an inch thick. I'm not saying or encouraging you to hit your liner with the mallet, but if you hit that ice, the ice breaks up and you can sweep all that ice right out the back of your trailer, spray a little release agent, and that's going to make the biggest difference in your day. It's a little bit more work to get out of the yard, but you won't be fighting it the whole rest of the day. So that would be my suggestion for you.
Yep.
When you can, do your cleaning out at the end of the day rather than in the morning. Because it's not frozen, it's lighter out or, whatever. It's not going to be 10 degrees and pitch black dark night with an inch of frozen water in the back.
Yeah. Hey, just another, tip on that. We've talked about this before about raising your trailers up. If the trailers are going to sit for, 3, 4, 5 days like they did over New Year's this year or this weekend, don't raise the trailer all the way up. I saw a trailer over at Yard 23 that was raised all the way up, and I don't know if anybody's taken the time to look at each stage of those hydraulic cylinders. The new cylinders actually have a cup design at each extension point. So when I looked at that trailer, there was a V-shaped pile of snow in each cup where it had snowed on all 5 stages of that cylinder, and I'm like, oh man, that is not going to be good when we let that trailer down, because if that froze or it's ice or anything like that, it could tear up those seals on those cylinders. So raise it up just far enough that the cylinder isn't exposed. And our theory behind that is, if we have a freeze-thaw condition over a 3-day period as it warms up, at least the water will roll to the back. That's the thought process behind that.
Yeah, and in Colorado, you never know. You might get a really warm day, and
Yeah.
it'll all just go to the back of your trailer.
Yeah, if it's sitting on a Sunday and Sunday gets up to 50 degrees,
Yeah.
all of that will melt out.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
if it's just an overnight snow, that snow is going to stick to your liner. It's not going to help at all.
Right. Yeah.
You know what? Shout out to Alex Reza when I went to go get that guy out delivering a torch over yard 23. He was over there with his kids sweeping out for the next day. He's like, yeah, I don't want to have problems. So,
Yeah.
good job, Alex.
We see that a lot, Jim. Even though we're not open or we're not hauling,
Yep.
it's just a snow day, and quite a few guys will come in and
Yep.
they'll clean that trailer out. That way they show up in the morning and
I always just try to show up early. I'll
Yeah.
come in a half hour early.
Yeah. You're not driving down from Greeley to sweep.
No. But I've learned, I went and bought a snow shovel and it sits in the back of the pickup. So it worked good yesterday.
Yeah, that's the other thing. If you're sweeping out and you're just struggling with your broom because your broom just fills up with snow and
Yeah.
freezes, come grab a snow shovel from us. You got to return it, or be like Jack, get your own. That's probably even better.
I got to jump in on that, Jam. When we were doing all the rock trailers the other morning, I had like 3 people jump in there with their broom, and I mean, I have to buy all those brooms. I have to order them and replace them. I said, dude, we got 8 inches of snow here. You can't be pushing that heavy, wet snow with your broom. It's just not going to do it. What? Really? Oh, okay. And so, I had a snow shovel. They had a snow shovel. We worked together, but you cannot push that much snow or ice with the broom. It's going to break the broom.
Yep.
Those brooms are $30+ a piece.
The new ones with the blue bristles?
Well, those are old ones. Those were like leftover.
Oh,
but
gotcha.
the new ones that we've recently bought, which I had to check too, Brother Dave. I ordered 30 of them from Zorro. They are still on back order.
Wow.
I'm like, the supply chain is so broken you can't buy a broom.
Wow.
I know. So anyway, those are $29 a piece.
Yep.
$28.99 a piece.
Also, if you're not capable, if you have some physical limitations where it's just a lot for you to sweep that trailer out when there's 6 or 8 inches of snow, for whatever the case may be, don't hesitate to ask me, Scooby, JR, Pat, Kendrick, Super Dave. We'll jump in there and help you guys. It's
Together you'll get it done.
it could be a lot if you're not in the shape to do it. So don't let your pride get in the way. We'll come help you.
And I just have to say, please, please, please be careful in there. I mean, you're on ice on one of the slickest surfaces there already
it's
is.
slick back there.
Yeah, I mean, it is just in an instant you're on your ass, right, Jack? I mean, it is.
I'm always just holding to the side.
Me too.
I always hold the side and push with one hand.
One broom and hold the rail.
I always just hold the rail.
Yep.
Yeah, and if your trailer's up just a little bit, you don't even need to walk. You could just hold the broom out and you're going to slide
Right?
out.
Yeah.
So
That broom just became a hockey stick that you're using as a tripod to balance in front of you.
I gotta thank Scooby. Scooby bought me a pair of cleats last winter, and those make a big difference.
They do.
Not so much in the trailer, but walking over to get there. But yeah, if you're standing on ice in the trailer and it's secure to the liner, it's good. But man, that ice breaks free and you're going for a ride just
Right.
as easy.
Even with the cleats, huh?
Well, if you're standing on ice and the ice breaks free, you're
Oh,
dead.
yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, the cleats aren't on the liner. The cleats are on the ice on the liner.
Absolutely. All right, Jack. So this was the 3rd week in a row we try to have you on the podcast. We've just been really busy and shorthanded with the holidays. And then I probably started asking you to come on the podcast when you first started working here and got a lot of no's, but we are happy that you're here today. So thanks for joining us.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
This is kind of a cliche icebreaker, but what do you like to do in your time off? Do you got hobbies and what do you do? You hang out with the grandkids?
Yeah, not really. I mean, just hang out with the grandkids. I mean, that's kind of why we moved to northern Colorado, to be closer to my daughter.
Okay.
My other daughter lives in Arvada, but, we kind of liked it up here. We live just right down the road in Commerce City. My wife grew up out here. So.
And she makes a commute down here every day.
Yeah, she
as well,
makes
right?
it now, too. Yeah, because she still kept her job, and that's what we decided to do. And it's all right. I mean, some days I get tired of it, and then I'll drive by the old house, and I'm like, I don't miss it that much.
But I bet you some days you get out into that country and you're like,
I like it a lot.
Yeah.
My wife was, her family, her dad was originally from Barnesville, Minnesota, right outside of Fargo. So they had a farm there. And when he passed away just about 25 years ago, and he left him the farm, and we always spent a couple weeks out there every summer. And we'd go out there, and that's kind of what we like about Eaton. It kind of reminds her of that and stuff like that. And,
Nice.
and stuff. So that's what we decided to do. It was kind of a spur of the moment thing. We decided to do it. And then we were like, well, so as we looked at houses and stuff, the taxes are cheaper up there and everything and stuff. So we're kind of going, yeah, the house was cheaper than trying to look at somewhere in Thornton or whatever. And,
Sure.
And then I was like, yeah, what we're saving, on taxes and stuff, we can pay for gas. Well, then gas went up. So we're not really saving nothing anymore. It's costing now, but it's all right. I don't mind it.
I think the one thing I would enjoy about the commute home is just being able to decompress.
It is. It's nice. I mean, I ain't gonna lie to you. That's when I listen to the podcast.
Yeah.
It takes about an hour to go home, and I can, if I don't get through it on the way back down the next day, I'll finish listening to it.
I got like 15 to 20 minutes to watch it all off before I get home to my family.
Yeah, right,
And
yeah.
Sometimes I need more time.
Yeah.
So, that's cool. Jack, how many years have you been driving?
Actually, June, my birthday in June will be 40 years.
Wow.
So
long
I got
time.
it. I got my CDL, or back then it was Class A, you would call it, I guess. So got it when I was 18. Actually, I started driving with my dad probably when I was 16, 17. I'd go with him, and we would I'd pull over before the port of entries and let him drive through. Him and my uncle had a produce business. They used to buy produce at a Donargo market, and then they hauled it to Laramie, Wyoming. And then they did all the restaurants and then university and stuff up there. So
Gotcha.
we did that for years.
Can you name off or click through some of the other places you drove for?
Oh, God. Well, I've only had, this makes my fifth job, if
Really?
I can name them all. It was my dad. Then I went on to, I went into driving a gravel truck. I drove for Tony Spano. I drove for him. He had those tandems. I drove for him for about 7 years. Just couldn't make him enough money. I mean, it was just back then, it just didn't pay that well, I guess, before the CDL. And I left there and went and worked for King Supers, and I drove for them. And then my brother started Domenico Transportation, and then I worked the last 20 years for him.
Gotcha.
And then I came over here.
Is that Spano? Is that related to Bill Spano? Tony Spano? Is it the same?
I don't know.
I
They're
wanna say-
all kind of. Tony's been around. I mean, he just grew up. I mean, they're originally from. They had property right behind the refinery down there. As you drive down where Metro Sewer and stuff's at, that's where their family was originally from. They had
Sure.
the greenhouses and stuff. And he still has one truck. I still see him around once in a while.
Yeah,
And
he's
so-
got I always laugh because he's got kind of like that lion.
Lion on it. Yeah, that old.
Isn't that a car club lion? Or I associate it with that.
It has something to do with that, I
Yeah.
think, or whatever. Yeah,
Yeah.
but I actually ended up at his deal. I was trying to. I wanted to drive for Leprinos, and back then it was hard to get on driving
Yeah.
job. I mean, and I was only 23 at the time, and they were like, no, and he had trucks leased to Leprinos, and I knew one of his drivers, and so then he was telling me. So I ended up over there. I went over there and said, hey, then same thing. I can't hire you. Then he looked at me and he goes, can you drive a 13? I go, yeah. He goes, well, I have an opening in one of my tandems. I got a perfect job for it. And he did a lot with the refinery. He used to do a lot over there at the
Interesting.
at the refinery. And that's what I did for probably the first 3 years. I worked for him every day, just down there moving dirt with the tandem
I'll be darned.
at the refinery. So did all that. So that's where I learned that part.
So 20 years over at Domenico Foods,
Domenico Transportation.
Domenico Transportation.
That's my brother.
What all the jobs did you have over there?
Did
in 20
everything.
years?
I just, everything. I mean, I was kind of, I guess you could say if the wheels fell off the bus, try to put them back on.
Gotcha.
I did everything for Vic. I mean, kind of filled in everywhere where we could drive. Probably about the last 13 years I was there, I was like the Mikey. I did the shop part.
Gotcha.
I did all that and stuff like that. But, if I needed to do anything else, if I needed to help him in safety or something, I would or whatever. But
Gotcha. Sounds like you were the free safety.
I guess so. Whatever. Yeah, it was just doing everything, I guess.
I got to jump in and say we were chatting outside one day, Jack, and I was just enthralled with the stories you were telling about Kroger or the King
King's
family,
Kroger, yeah.
and all of those things that went down to create the Kroger King Supers like scene that we see today. It was, you are a history book, buddy.
Been around a long time, I guess.
Yeah, driving 40 years in this city, you've probably seen it all.
Yeah,
Quite a
you
bit.
see a lot of things.
So yeah,
You know what's so impressive is 5 jobs.
right.
5 jobs.
You know
in
what's
20
funny
years,
is my
or
wife's
40
only,
years. That's
my wife's
that's-
only had 2,
Oh wow.
same amount of time. She's only worked for 2 people. You know,
And what does she do?
she's actually a secretary at the Mapleton schools. You know, the school's right there on 88th in York.
Okay.
She's at what they call Mesa, and she's a secretary. She started working for the schools when the kids started. You know, she
Got it.
actually worked downtown at an accounting firm.
Okay.
And she liked that. And same thing, you know, kind of like she wanted to be around the kids more, be off with the kids. And so she started with that. And I always teased her, like, yeah, when the kids get done at school, you can go back to the deal. And she stayed, and just about 23 years, I think she has with them.
Okay.
So, yeah, still
Nice.
doing that. So she likes it.
So when I drove for Cormark, one of the truck bosses over there was getting ready to move to Wyoming and work in the coal mines. And I was like, oh, you know, you're going to be a supervisor. You're going to do this. And he's like, you know what, Jam, I just want to be a dude. And that reminds me of you, Jack, because, you know, we've offered you some things around here just because of your experience and your knowledge and, you know, the things that you've done to, hey, would you be interested in this? Would you be interested in that? And every time it's just, no, I'm good.
I just got to the point, that's all I wanted to do. You know, I always liked driving. When I left Vic, it was one of those things. It was kind of like a marriage. Mm-hmm. You know, sometimes they work out, sometimes they don't. And it was one of those. I think it was just better just to leave. Kind of. That's how I felt. And it wasn't like I just threw a dart and decided, hey, I'm gonna go drive for JFW. I started looking probably in September. I just started looking, and I knew nothing about you guys. And I just remember I could see all the trucks going, and so you're trying to ask people, you know, do you know about these guys or whatever? And actually, I talked to a couple of guys because we always did a lot with Kenworth, and they talked very highly of you guys. And I kind of liked. Well, one of them told me is, wow, he goes, they're kind of picky about their trucks. Everything has to be a certain way and all that. And I thought, well, that's good. I'm kind of like that. I like that. And I ain't gonna lie to you, I figured you guys weren't even hiring because coming from the grocery business, it's 7/24, 365. And I always looked at it over here. It was like, to me, it's a day job. In the trucking business, this is a day job. People might not think it's a day job.
Sure.
This is a day job. You know, 2 Saturdays a month, half days type of thing. Sundays, you know, I mean, unless you're doing Coors, Sundays off. And that's why I like the start time. I like the 5 a.m. I like starting that time. I like getting off early. I mean, years I've worked nights. I mean, you're going to work 7, 8, 9 o'clock at night. Man, that sucks at times. I mean, when you're younger, it's not as bad. But man, when I started, you know, I just didn't want it. And I ain't gonna lie to you, I figured you guys weren't even hiring. I figured, okay, they got a line around that building, you know, because it's a day. And I was on Indeed. I had an account set up on Indeed, and I blew it off, actually. I mean, I came down there, I parked outside you guys' deal over here about 10 minutes one day, and I was kind of pro and con in it. Should I leave? Shouldn't I leave? And I thought, oh, nah, forget it. I just left, and then got more and more did about it. And finally, I looked on Indeed, and I seen it, and it says, this employer has reviewed applications in the last day. So I'm thinking, well, I guess they must be hiring. So I submitted it, and I guess the rest is history, I guess you could say. And I ain't gonna lie to you, when I started, I didn't think I wasn't gonna stay. I was trying to go and find something closer to home instead of the commute. And before you know it, you're kind of like, honestly, you're like looking at things going, wow, you know, almost the year goes by, and the year goes by. And like you've said before, Brother Dave, it's give it a year. And things just started getting better, and I like it. I mean, you know, I have no intentions. I mean, it's what I was looking for, I guess I should say.
Nice.
And I think that's what other drivers should be out there. I mean, is it what you're looking for?
Right.
You know, always pro and con everything. That's how I always done things.
Sure, but to hear a guy with 40 years experience, you've seen a lot. You've only had 5 jobs, but you know kind of what's out there. So to come over here and not really plan on staying. I think you and I talked. You thought you would be here for a year max.
Yeah.
And then.
It's funny. I did because my brother's also. We grew up on a farm, and my brother has my youngest brother out of the family. I come from a large family. I got 11 siblings, and my the youngest, my brother Greg, he has the farm, and they farm up there off of. He's up there off of right down from Barra there on Highway 66, and I wanted to go back and kind of drive for him. And I told him one day, and he kind of like blew me up. I don't want to do it. And so I blew it off or whatever. Well, then like last summer, he calls me. Oh, come on. He goes, why don't you come to, and I'm like, I don't want to now. And then he's like, and I'm like, you're too late. I go, I would have came last summer, no problem. If you would have called me, I go, right now, I go, I like, I don't know, I guess is it flexibility? I mean, you guys do a lot. You guys are really flexible in my eyes when it comes to like family time and stuff. Like if you have something or whatever, you guys, and that's what I like. And, and I like, when I set up my vacations, I've asked you before, Jam, you're like, hey, first come, first serve. And, I think I was putting in stuff for this December stuff while I was off back in March because I'm a planner. I want to plan things. And so that's what I like to do. And that's what I like about it. And I think that's one of the pros about you guys. I mean, that's what I like about it.
What's funny is Jack says we're flexible, but he's very low maintenance. You know what I mean? Like,
he's not coming to you 3 days a week. Hey, I need this, or can I do that, or what's here?
Or that day, for the.
Well,
it's like
I try to plan things, and it's the same thing. I tell my kids the same thing. I give them the printout of the Saturdays I work. Here, these are the Saturdays I work. So if you want Grandpa there on some of your stuff, plan it on these days. If not, then I'm going to be late. I mean, if you want it earlier or just do it later on or whatever, I go, but just plan it these dates.
And that's why we even came up with the Saturday rotations, was for people to be able to plan their lives a little bit better. Like, oh, I have these days off. It doesn't always work like that, but it still works out with, people finding coverage and stuff like that. But yeah.
I try to plan things. I always try to plan things. I don't know. It's just the way I'm from.
So when we talked about having you on the podcast, Jack, you were pretty vocal about you wanted to talk about, the grass is greener on the other side, or, what makes people leave or come here or stay or don't. What's your thoughts on all that?
A lot of times on the grass is greener. A lot of people, I seen this when working with Vic because, we always had turnover in drivers. Same thing, it was nights, weekends, and that type of thing. Sometimes the grass isn't always greener. It's just, like I've said before, trying to pro and con and look at things or whatever, and then just see what fits you. Mm-hmm. That type of thing. Is this job right for you? Is it? Right. Some people I think come over here and then all of a sudden, I'll look around and I remember when I got hired, there was a guy that got hired the same day I did, and I don't think he was here 3 months, right, and was gone, and quit. And I just remember him telling me, oh, I hate being the new guy. I hate being the new guy. And then I go, oh, well, yeah. I go, well, I haven't been the new guy in 20 years. And he kind of looked at me, and it was just weird. All of a sudden, he was gone, And I think I asked you, Jam, and I don't know, he quit, whatever. And I was just kind of surprised. But I think it's just what fits you. It's just, I like it for that reason. Like I told you at the start times, I like working during the days. I remember you guys said when you guys had Ray on not too long ago, when he was talking about how you just hit a button, truck goes up. It's I don't want to say easy. To me it's kind of easy, but some people might. But it's just I wanted a job that I can do in my 60s. I'm going to lie to you, and I looked at that. I look at Marty. It's just I don't know if I want to be driving at 75, but looking at him, kind of going, wow, that's pretty good. But. I don't know. Maybe I might have to. I don't know. But I wanted something that I can do. I always said that, doing my 60s. I always wanted to make decisions in my 50s, not to screw up my 60s.
Right. So. Yeah.
If you ask Marty, he'll just tell you, stop buying things, and you can retire.
Yeah, you can retire or whatever. Yeah, that's it. That's, I guess, whatever. But I do. I look at it and I think that's good. It's to see somebody doing that still.
Awesome. What's some of your advice you could give for the new blood, for the new drivers coming to JFW?
Give it a chance. Don't sit there and worry about everything, or like, oh, are they going to fire me? Like you always say, brother Dave, just do your job. If you just show up, do your job. I think just do it the best way you can. If you're not, pick up the phone or call somebody or ask. That. And sometimes I'm a type that I'll just do it kind of without asking. I guess what's the saying? Is it better to beg for forgiveness than ask for permission? A type of thing. I do that sometimes with the truck. If when I was driving 65 or whatever, I stopped at plant 13 one day and I looked down and I'm leaking antifreeze. Well, it's a clamp, and I always carry my own tools with me. So I get down there and I tighten it all up, and then I told John that night, hey, double check all the clamps. But it's just one of those. I mean, I've had people where, oh, I ain't touching nothing, I ain't that. Then they're calling, they're this, and I used to have to send service trucks out for, like, man, that's
for a clamp.
Yeah.
Believe me,
we call that getting off the island. That's Mikey and I's joke. You got off the island.
Yeah.
Right? Otherwise, we had to send a rescue boat down to tighten the clamp that took you 5 minutes.
Exactly.
You probably carry a gallon of antifreeze with you.
I
so
do
you were
that.
able to top it off, and you got off the island. And that took you, I'm making it up, but probably no more than 15 minutes.
No,
You'd have been down there 2 hours waiting on us.
That's it. I'm from the school. I don't want to wait. I don't want to wait on the side of the road unless I have to. That truck has to be disabled. If not, I'm going to Band-Aid that thing or try to my best. I carry my own air hose with me that I can hook into the lad hand. I used to have them all because we always ran super singles with Vic, and I always had my air hose. I made me one for this, and I carry it with me for that reason, because I'm thinking if I got a low tire, and you can air it up enough to get it back.
Yeah, absolutely.
To get it back. And same thing if you see that light flashing. If that light's flashing, it's telling you. I especially on the trailer, I'm leaking. So you either try to. I mean, I had guys with a trailer one time blow a tire out, ruin the wheel and everything else, and I'm like, well, that light up on the top over there, that amber light, wasn't that fun? Well, you mean the ABS light? And I go, well, the ABS light's on the back of the trailer. It's at the front. There's a little sign there that tells you what it's for.
Yeah.
But that thing's on. Hey, let's pull over and look at it. Man, let's drive it until it blows.
Yeah.
It ain't my tire.
Proactive versus reactive.
Yes, I'm like that. I'm just that type of deal. Just to try to get it. Try to get it back.
Yeah. Not to sidetrack you, but you kind of mentioned it earlier that you said I've said that. But do you agree, Jack, that this is a job you have to do for a year? You have to go through all 4 seasons in this job?
Yes. If you know nothing, to me, I call it the gravel business. If you don't know nothing about it, about the slow times and all. Like I said, I worked 7 years for Tony. I knew what the downtime was, and that was probably why I left after, it was when my second daughter was born. I mean, I just needed, I needed more, grocery business. Hey, you can make it 24/7. You can go make more money, but like I says, you're working days, nights, you turn in 10, you get done, be back, whatever, that type of thing, so that's it. But yeah, to me, you have to give it a year. Because then, your pay raise is kicking, everything starts to work in, and then you start looking at it, and then when you thought about that job, that was my second choice, and you start comparing them, and you're like, it ain't that great, it's not, and then you're starting from ground zero again, and that's what you got to look at. You're
the new guy.
Yes, and when people worry about money and start chasing that dollar bill, you're never going to get ahead. That's all you're going to do is chase a dollar bill.
Yep.
If you leave and you went and did something totally different, it's a different story. But if you left and went to another driving job, it's a wash in my eyes. It ain't gonna be any different in my eyes. It's just a wash and stuff.
Yeah. I was thinking about the guy that quit after 3 months, and he doesn't like I hate being a new guy. He's probably always a new guy.
Yeah,
if you're jumping ship every 3 months.
Well, that's what I was just saying. And it was just funny the way he told me that. I mean, it was just, I hate being the new guy. And I'm like, okay, and I don't think he made it through the summer. Yeah, I started in February. We're both in February.
When we get off there, you'll have to remind me who that was.
Oh, okay. If I think hard enough, I'll remember.
Okay.
We talk about grit, and this job takes so much grit. But if you're a new guy, we did an interview with a guy this morning, Coleman, young kid. I mean, he goes against all of our requirements, Jack.
Rules.
And what I mean by that
Hiring
is
rules.
You're supposed to be 25. He's 23. You're supposed to have 2 years experience. He's got none with a Class A. He's got Class B experience for 2 years, Dave.
No, a little more than that.
Okay,
Yeah,
3 years.
He has really good Class B experience.
Right.
I love roll-off drivers, trash drivers. They get in and out of tight places. They have a lot of work on their plate every day. which really, parallels with what we do.
Yeah.
But he gets it, Jack. In meeting with him this morning, he understands the business. He understands, hey, it's going to be a little slow right now. And what we run into so often, and I don't want to say it's all 4 seasons. It's more summer versus winter. But we'll hire a guy in summer, and I mean, we're busting ass. We're barely keeping up, right? Everybody's yelling at us. This plant's low. This whatever. We need to move as many loads as we can. And this guy's like, I can't work that many hours. I've worked here 3 months and I haven't had a Saturday off or something like that, or and that was their choice, right? Because we give the 2 Saturdays off a month.
Yeah.
But they're like, I can't do that, and it's like, well, it's just this window that we're in. Or you have the opposite end of the spectrum, where I'm talking about Coleman that we interviewed this morning. He's starting at what I consider it the worst time of the year, because your learning curve through winter is huge, right? If you're new to this industry and you started like he did 3 weeks ago or 2.5 weeks ago or whatever it is,
Month ago.
I mean, it is a horrible learning curve. I mean, just the industry, the truck, how things function, the dumping the frozen material, just everything about it. And then you have the other end where, geez, I missed a couple days. My paycheck isn't that good either.
Yeah.
So it's like whammy on top of whammy, where I think winter is worse than summer, but we have both ends of those spectrums. And that's the reason I say, you have to do this job for a year. You have to go through the full cycle for a year.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. And if the drivers are always like, oh, I got to make so much, sometimes you're not. This week's going to be lighter than this week. But you got to balance it out through the summer too. That's what you got to look at. And just like, this past week, 3 days off, that type of thing. I mean, that's what you got to look for. Look forward to that and stuff.
Yep.
I mean, in the 20 years I worked with Vic, I mean, I worked just about almost all Christmases. I always took Christmas Eve off because that's when my wife always did things. But I've worked plenty of Christmas days.
Sure.
4th of July, Labor Day weekend, or Labor Day. Memorial Day. The first summer I worked with you guys, Memorial Day or Labor Day, me and my wife were sitting around the house, and then she sat there. She goes, "Wow," she goes, "This is the first time in 27 years you've had 3-day weekends on all, Memorial Day, Labor Day, and 4th of July." And I go, "Yeah,
Nice.
first time in 27 years." And so that's why it fit what I was looking for. I think if people just look at it that way, and type it. I mean, I know there was a guy that worked for Vic or whatever that wanted to come over, and I told him that. I go, "I don't know if you're going to like it." And I go, "Is it what you're looking?" I go, "You probably wouldn't even have looked at it if I wasn't over there working."
Right.
You're like, "Oh, if Jack's over there, it can't be that bad." I don't, but it was what I was looking for. And I says, and he didn't come over and stuff, but I don't think he would
That's
have
the
been
guy
a fit.
that did come over, but didn't.
He didn't work. I didn't think it was going to work out. That's what I told you.
He
I
didn't
mean,
interview very well.
and stuff. And he's the type. He's been paid by the hour. And also, you're doing by the load, and all of a sudden, I always felt like he'd been like sitting in traffic chewing on the steering wheel. Oh yeah, now I'm losing money. That type of thing. You can't look at it that way. You just got to look at the whole, as you guys were saying, the whole pie. Just look at the whole thing.
Yeah.
Look at the whole thing.
We do have people that do very well here, and I always like what Troy Hunt says about this job. The job itself is easy. This is an easy trucking job for all the reasons that you said. It's a day job. It's not very physical. Like, it's easy to do, but you got to grind to make some coin.
Yeah.
If you're stopping for lunch every day, you're not going to be a top earner over here. If you're bringing your lunch and you're keeping the window closed and the door closed, and the wheels
keep the door
moving,
closed.
you're gonna do well. So, but like you said, is that a good fit for everybody? Maybe not. JFW is not for everybody.
It's not for everybody, but for like the new people that come that don't know nothing about it, give it a chance. I mean, my deal is give it a chance and see. Down the road, you might look back and go, "Hey, it was the best thing I decided to do, or is it the worst thing?" I don't know.
Yeah. I think too, Jack, you mentioned those people chasing the money. I think no matter what job they have, they're always going to be chasing the money.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think those are people that have made choices that they need to stop and look instead of chasing the money. Maybe I shouldn't be spending so much.
Yeah.
And reassess. They keep chasing the same thing with a new job,
Yeah.
Oh, I need more money. I need more money. I need more money. Sometimes they just need to look at that from the other perspective and go, well, how can I get away without needing so much money? Do I need to sell this car? Do I need to, whatever the case may be. And all of us make mistakes sometime financially. You know what I mean? We've all gotten in a bind. We've all had a hiccup or two, along the way where we're learning something. But those people, they're in trouble for a reason, because they usually don't make good financial choices. So it is difficult to find that.
Yeah, I think a lot of people that way. I mean, I don't want to stereotype everybody, but I think just all of a sudden they hear about a job, and this job paid this and that, and they're like, they're all liars. I mean, everybody's lying, that type of thing. So that's what you just gotta look. You just gotta look at it that way. And that's what I did. Or whatever. I even went on like the reviews and stuff. Was reading reviews, and I remember coming across this one review, and it was an old driver. It said, and unless you kiss up to the dispatchers, you don't get the good thing, and you get that. And I'm just looking at that, laughing, going, well, that's just that person, Right. He's always thinking that, whatever.
Disgruntled.
Yes, that type of thing. That's the way I look at it. I don't take that with a lot of grain of salt. I mean, because it's the same thing. I don't want to complain, because that's the last thing the dispatchers want to hear.
Right.
Is you complain. So I try to be seen more than heard.
Yeah, let your work speak for itself.
Yeah.
Jack, you said everybody lies, so did we lie about anything?
No, you didn't.
Okay.
No, you didn't.
We've come.
But in the old job, there's times you kind of lie a little bit, and then you're always trying to find drivers so bad, that type of thing or whatever. So you're trying to paint what they want, and then you're like, well, I don't know if you guys look at it that way, but hey, you get 2, 3 months, 4 months out of them, get through the busy season. Hey, we did all right. We'll worry about it next time around or whatever. But
yeah, that's definitely not Super Dave's strategy at all.
And I could spend a whole podcast talking about the strategies involved. I'll tell you.
Exactly.
The lion's not one of them.
No, but you definitely go from the different ebbs and flows of the year, and you have different needs when you're looking at your drivers that you want to bring on board at that time. So
yeah, and this is an industry that's production based. The produce as well, Jack.
Yeah.
I mean, I 100% understand what you're addressing. I totally get it. Where you're desperate, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you have X amount of loads or X amount of
Exactly.
contracts. You need to try and fulfill.
Or that driver that's screwing up and you want to fire him, but you're like, I don't have his replacement.
Right.
I mean, there's times I would look at Vic and go, God, we got to get rid of this guy. And he goes, well, when you find me his replacement, then I'll get rid of him. That type of thing. Because you're like, he used to sit there and say, I know what I have with him. I don't know what I got with the new guy. That type of thing. So
that's what you do all the time.
And so you shut up, you buckle up, and you're like, and then all of a sudden, 3 weeks later, the truck's laying in the ditch. You're like, wow, okay.
Yep.
Maybe we should have done something different.
We talk about that, the bar. Where's our bar?
Standards.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Who brought these winter driving tips for truck drivers up?
I brought those in.
It says Dave White on the top of it.
Yes, it does.
You want to address that, Dave?
I do, yeah. In our interview this morning with Coleman, that was something he brought up, being a young driver, not much experience in the conditions and stuff. And it sounds like for being a young guy, we've already shot him up to Vail and Frisco and Eisenhower with some salt. So like a little probably white knuckling possibly for him. And I just thought, geez, he's spot on. We're in the heart of winter and we haven't talked about winter driving tips for quite some time. So, when the temperature plunges to 5 degrees, even the most experienced people can have a hard time managing icy roads or poor visibility, traction issues like we had last night at the pit, getting off in some soft stuff. We talk about that. It can be extremely challenging. So if we implement some of these skills for the driving conditions, when you're on an icy road, you can just sail right through winter with no problems. If you just, think about what your needs are. I like having Jack on here because I've noticed everything he's talked about. He said just in his time off, he likes to schedule things. He's obviously a planner, right? He's planning what he needs to do tomorrow. He's planning what the next load is. He's planning, he's thinking about the position and what needs to be done. So the first thing starts off with inspect your vehicle. Getting your truck prepared for winter is essential, and it's important to prevent any major problems. Like he caught that clamp that was leaking down at the plant down there and was able to just tighten it because he carries his own tools. We provide a tool bag with the minimalist of tools, but even as minimal as those tools are, we've pretty well made sure there's something in there to get you out of a bind. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yes.
You can get by with, even if you have to tighten a nut with a pair of needle nose vice grips, right? It could be done. Is it right? Is it perfect? No, but will it get you here? Most likely, yes. So anyway, take a look at that truck, go through everything, check your tire pressure. We talk about that almost daily. Engine oil, antifreeze levels, check everything before you hit the road. You can also have a mechanic inspect your vehicle to make sure it's ready. What I caution you about that is the mechanics are busy making repairs. That is their job. It is your job to do the pre-trip and post-trip. You are responsible for the liquid levels in those vehicles. Be sure you have plenty of washer fluid this time of year. The majority of the trucks, I think the Kenworths and the Peets, you can burn through a bottle of washer fluid in a day.
Oh, yeah.
It's my understanding the Freightliners have like a 3-gallon jug in them or bottle.
The new trucks, the new Kenworth, it looks like it said 2 gallons on it.
Does it?
It says
I
2
haven't even
gallons.
looked at
Yeah,
that, Jack.
yeah.
So maybe there's enough.
Yeah, there's enough
to get you through a day.
I burned through a gallon yesterday.
Yeah.
The older trucks were 1 gallon.
1 gallon,
You
yes,
dump
yes.
a whole gallon
1
jug
gallon,
in there,
that's
and
it.
that would top it off.
Yeah. So carry another bottle with you. An extra
Always have
bottle
one
here in the
with you.
cab. That way you can get through the day. Number 2 here, I think it should be number 1 because we talk about this incessantly all the time. Slow down. Just plain out slow down. I mentioned that a couple times on the radio this morning, just in your driving habits and your body motions. When you jump in and out of the truck, I see so many guys, they're so excited to jump out of that cab, at the end of the day, or just to get your ticket or to go walk back to the trailer or whatever. Back out of that truck, 3-point stance, just like you climbed into it. Be sure you've got 2 hands and a foot or 2 feet and a hand connected. If you have a 3-point stance, 9 times out of 10, you're not going to fall when you hit the ground. So slow down, not only in your driving, but also, in your physical motions, you yourself. So most accidents occur because drivers don't adjust their speed according to road conditions. While driving on snow-covered roads, you may need to compensate for the poor traction by reducing your wheel speed. Moreover, going slow, you'll also give more time to react if anything goes wrong. So be extra easy with your accelerator this winter. That's just, I feel that's common sense, but we still have to talk about it. We still have those people that, I can be driving down the road, coming to work in the morning, and it's in the middle of a snowstorm, and I'm going, 40 miles an hour down Highway 85, and I'll have a car zip past me at 60. And I think, what does he know that I don't? Or she know, or whoever it is, and you think, if that light up there changes, they can't stop for it. I can't stop for it. How can they? But they don't have anyone helping them with these things. So I guess that's the way I look at this is, hey, we're out there trying to preach this, talk about it. So slow down, be extra easy. So the third thing on the list is give yourself some extra space. That goes in conjunction with slow down. That extra space is automatically created when you slow down. I had this morning just coming to work. You just run into something every day in every instance. You could probably talk about an instant every load you haul that you deliver. But like coming in, you either have cars running 75 miles an hour passing you, or you run up on the guy that's doing 50, and you have to go around him. And I'm like, I came to work this morning and I stayed in the slow lane all the way down I-25, but I was literally running 75 miles an hour and cars were passing me the whole way in. I got to 84th. I was able to make my way over. And that curve where you get off at 25 southbound onto, I call it the 270-76 Boulder Turnpike split, right?
Yeah.
I don't know what to call that off-ramp, but that thing can get slick. And there is 2 bumps at the end of that ramp just before you make the merge. And I tell you what, that last bump in my pickup, you buckle up, right? If you're going too fast, you better be buckled up. So I hit it going like 35, 40 miles an hour, and it pisses everyone off behind me. But it's rough, and if it's slick and you hit that bump and you're in a curve, what's going to happen? You're going to spin out. You're going to slide out of control. You wouldn't compensate from that. You wouldn't recover from it at that angle, at that speed. So, yeah, slow down. Give yourself some extra space. Be prepared for that, and just pay attention to what you're doing. Icy roads, what's it say here? Stopping distance on a wet road is twice the normal stopping distance, and on icy roads, it's almost 10 times the stopping distance. So leave plenty of room between your truck and the vehicle in front of you so that you have enough space to move out of harm's way in case of unpredictable situations. It's always good to put extra space between yourself and some of the terrible drivers that you might meet in the winter conditions. So, yeah, just something to think of. Here's another one we probably don't address enough, but I feel, we just don't address it enough. Number 4 says stay smooth. In cold weather, try hard to refrain from doing anything sudden. Sudden braking, sudden acceleration, sudden cornering, etc. If the situation demands that you slow down suddenly on a slick road, pump the brakes lightly. The key is to maintain the consistent speed and avoid doing anything that reduces traction on slippery roads. So, that whole smooth, that's what one of the things we call the term Cadillacing. It's just an easy acceleration up to speed, and it's an easy decel down to stopping speeds. So one of the big things, when you're running into a storm or during a storm, when it's snowing out, pay attention to tire spray. When you look in your mirrors or when you're looking at other vehicles on the road, when say we deliver something up to Fort Collins and we leave here and it's dry, but you're headed into the storm, pretty soon you're traveling along and the snow's coming down and you got spray coming off of the tires and you make it, up towards Vara 66 there, Highway 66 there, like you'd be going to Vara, and you keep going and it's still the same amount of snow, but all of a sudden there's no spray. That means it's ice.
Nice.
That means it's slick. That means you've lost 100% of your traction because you're on ice. There is no more spray left. There's no water on the road. It's done. So pay attention to that. That's something that's key. You can really see it in your mirrors. Definitely see it on the other vehicles around you. So when there's no spray, it's slick. You're pretty much on ice or packed snow. So that's always definitely a good one. Next one on there is let there be light. I think Chris Beam just gave this up in a tips and trick a couple weeks ago, but the visibility is quite poor in inclement weather conditions. Don't forget to clean your lights on the tractor and trailer that get covered in snow and ice. I think Jim had brought it up that, I say back in the day, but prior to us having LEDs and everything, the incandescent lights, they created heat.
Yeah.
The snow always melted off of them. You could always see a vehicle. Now you can be going down the road. If a trailer's been running on snow-packed roads for 100 miles, you don't even see them until you're on them. Those lights they're illuminated, but you can't see them because the LED light bulbs don't generate any heat, so it doesn't melt the snow off of that light. So, yeah, luckily we're able to get out every load, and like Chris said, save yourself some steps, walk back with a piece of paper towel, wipe those lights off, and clean your lights. It's going to be safety for everyone. So that might help, someone seeing you in one of those situations. Also clean your headlights if you're having to run, like Jack said yesterday, ran through a bottle of washer fluid. Pretty good odds you probably needed to clean your lights at some point this morning,
I've cleaned them a couple times just during the day or whatever.
Sure.
But yeah, this morning I was wiping them down.
Sure.
And everything for that reason.
Yep. Number 7 on here, take evasive action. Sometimes it's better to take evasive action than hard braking, especially on snow-covered roads. If your speed is around 25 to 30 miles an hour, consider decelerating your truck slightly and maneuvering around the obstacles to avoid collision. So, they're already at a slow speed. They're already going 25 or 30. That's the same speed as you'd go down the street here to come into the yard. So really think about that. You're already in poor conditions if you're doing 25 or 30. So take evasive action. Hopefully you can steer around that situation and work through everything. So number 8 on here, when in doubt, pull over. If the weather condition is too severe to drive in, don't think too much about your schedule or your pay. Find a safe way to get off the roadway and wait until the weather gets better and it's safe for you to drive. No matter what, safety is number one. We say it all the time, there's no load of gravel or no load of salt worth crashing for or hurting someone or putting your life in danger or someone else's life in danger. So when in doubt, pull over. I do want to kind of add to that, please try and do it on an off-ramp or somewhere that you are safely out of the way. Maybe you can get to a parking lot somewhere or whatever. Don't just stop on an interstate or, I really don't recommend the shoulder of the road if you were on the highway or something, but I think that depends more of a breakdown or whatnot. So just try and really really think that through when you pull over there. It's be prepared for where you're going to pull over. Number 9 here, it just says be prepared. Dave talks about this all the time, but carry warm clothes and blankets if you need to. If you're going for an extended trip, carry a flashlight. We talk about a flashlight. You should have one every day. People have them on their phone, but I carry an additional one in my pocket every day. It's a little badass little LED flashlight that Jam actually gave Jim and I a couple years ago for gifts, and best gift I've ever gotten. It just works phenomenal. So a shovel in there, which you guys and gals should all have. Matches, traction devices, that's chains. I like this, a bag of sand, because Jim and I have, over the years, actually before the chain law was mandatory here locally, we've delivered to salt sheds where we're stuck in their parking lot or stuck on the street outside of their facility trying to get in. And heck, we've climbed up there and we've thrown rock or salt or squeegee or sand. We've shoveled it right out of the trailer by the drive tires, and then you throw it where the drive tires are just to get us out of where we're at. So there's always an option. There's always something to get you out of the jam you're in. So call us if you're having trouble or, get stuck or whatever the case is. We have a lot of experience and always willing to help out with any of that stuff. So last thing on the list is check twice. When visibility is compromised in a whiteout blizzard, it can be difficult to see traffic lights and signs. Make sure you look twice before proceeding through an intersection or turning down a one-way street. So just be prepared. There's a lot of great stuff in here. We talk about a lot of these things a lot, especially in the winter, and it's just good to reinforce those items and those things.
That's a great list.
Yes.
Yep. Coleman, if you want a copy of that, come by the office. And we got it printed out.
Do you guys have anything to add to that? It was kind of just a general driving list as such. Any more
The only
tips
thing
or
on that
tricks?
one that says be prepared, it says matches. And I do, and working with Vic and all that, I always carried a slow burning candle with me.
Yeah.
I always had a candle. So I figured if something happened, I wasn't going to freeze to death in a second. And I have it in my backpacks today.
What's funny is that I had never thought about that, Jack, but a candle just burning in your cab?
Yes, a candle will keep you warm enough. So.
It would give off a lot of heat, wouldn't
Yes.
it? I always think of something to thaw a frozen line or a valve.
Yeah.
We had a deal I'll never forget. Mikey and I were out running around one day chasing parts. It was a winter day, and we were on an odd chase of something we needed, and we wound up near Boulder. Well, we had one of our old tandems that he was having some problems, and he was able to leave the trailer there and go get another load. And we said, hey, we're near, but we're not in a service truck, but we'll come by and at least see what's going on. It sounds like you got a valve froze up, and we got up there and we were able to test because the trailer had air where it was frozen. And I had a lighter in my pickup, right? I don't smoke, but I had a lighter in my pickup because I'm like you.
Yeah.
You want to be prepared,
Yeah.
right? So I had a lighter, and I'm like, how are we going to thaw this valve out with a lighter? We can't do it. It was a big valve, right? And I got to looking around, and I had paper, right? You can actually make what's called if you light a piece of paper on fire, it just burns up. It's just poof, super fast burn. But if you take like a newspaper where you can take a long sheet and you twist it, you can open up your fuel tank and dip it in fuel and pull it out. You got to let the fuel run off of it, obviously. But if you light the end of that on fire, it's just a nice, slow, steady burn. And you can hold it. I call it a diesel wick.
Nice.
And we heated that valve, and I mean, we got some diesel fuel on us, but we got the valve thawed out. The guy was up and running, and we went back to work. And we weren't in a service truck. We didn't have parts. We didn't, it was about as makeshift as you could get. But we got the guy off the island, and he kept trucking, and every time we did something, he looked at us with this aha moment, like, oh, I didn't know that, So
Yeah, I got carry one of those. Is it magnesium? I don't know. I got one of those magnesium rods in my backpack.
like I'll call it a flint. I know it's magnesium.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
Same difference,
And
right,
then
Jam?
actually, exactly. And then some dryer lint. That stuff lights up real easy.
Oh yeah.
But what I like to keep in the Jeep, and I need to get the pickup squared away, but I carry a couple of those easy light, like fire logs, like you would start a fire with.
Yeah.
To just light the paper.
Yeah.
So if my lighter is not working and I don't feel like being like, naked and afraid with the flint starter, I could just, light one of those up.
Yeah.
And, my lighter would need to be working for that. But yeah, and that thing will start up, no problem.
Right.
So,
Right.
Yeah, definitely good to be prepared.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Jack, I forgot to ask you, and then we're going to
So-
jump back into safety. But what's the craziest thing you've experienced in the trucking industry in the last 40 years?
I don't know. Is it crazy, or you look at it like as kind of like people being stupid? you know, I was thinking about that. I just remember one day, and it was on Christmas Day, and we were sending loads up, in the stores, up there along the Highway 82 corridor. Go, ski season and all that. The truck was going to go up to the El Jabel store, and.
So just so everybody knows that, we're talking about from Glenwood Springs to Aspen.
Yes.
Highway 82.
Yeah,
right?
Highway 82.
Through Carbondale.
Yeah, all that
yeah.
stuff. Their city market stores and all that. So we used to deliver all those up into Aspen and stuff. So truck's going up there, and the driver decides, I need to take a leak. So he pulls off. But he pulls off at the top of Vale Pass where the rest area is at. But he pulls on the ramp and decides to stop on the uphill side.
Oh.
Well, snow-packed roads. He's stuck.
Yeah.
Then it's like, why can't I go? We'll put the chains on. Well, I can't get the chains on. So Christmas Day, I got to call Dillon Towing. Can you go up there? Told the guy, 100 feet to the other side, so you can get through it. Like $800 back then, because it's Christmas Day, just
right.
to do stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it's just stuff like that just drives you. It's those things, I think, that when you look at something like that, I mean, it was like yesterday. I was going down Santa Fe, and I think some of the drivers were talking about on the radio. There was a guy that was coming off of Dartmouth, making the corner there, and I don't know, and he hangs the trailer up onto the Jersey wall, and he gets it there where at the bottom where the wheels start to go. But it looked like when you look at it, he had to go down at least 50, 75 feet. And I'm like, you didn't notice your trailer's way up here. It's stuff like that, I mean,
It's the gate post we talked about, right?
the
Jack?
gate post.
We went
when
through
you
the
talk
gate
about
5,000
when you guys
times,
talk
but we
about the
hit it
trailer
once.
with the guy with the hammer going down, I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
I can't believe. And I always thought that crap just happened to us. I came over here and I'm like, it just doesn't happen to us. I remember when you talk about it, it was the first time, the first day I started here, you guys we had a safety meeting, and Brother Jim is talking about you guys were delivering a lot of that chicken manure, and they didn't clean out, and they ended up delivering the dead chicken to Plant 13 with the rock.
Yeah.
And I just remember talking about it and being all like, what? And I was just like saying to myself, like, wow. I'm like, I guess it does happen. It's stuff like that. I mean, it's just the crazy bonehead moves, I guess you could say. I mean, I want to...
You're spot on.
But it's just like when you're looking at it, when you're going to go pull over, why don't you just go up there to where the brake check area is at in Vale, where the salt shed's at? Just pull over there where everybody normally pulls over.
Right.
You're on the downhill side.
Yeah.
Don't ever
Yeah.
pull over. And,
Yeah.
and I had a driver one time pull off the side of the road, gets out of the truck, he's too far over, truck goes over. Loaded. Twists
Yeah.
the frame of the tractor, just goes over because he's too far over. When you guys are talking about pulling over.
Some shoulder.
It's stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean,
After a while, nothing surprises you. You may have not have seen it before, but
yeah,
Yeah, you're
I mean,
not
it's
shocked by it.
Yeah, you're just
And
kind of.
that goes back to what I say though, Jack. And this can be the kind of version or the harsh version. And what I mean by that is when I say Bill Belichick says,
Yes,
just do your job.
Just do your job.
Right? It's
That's it.
easy. Just do your job. But the harsh version is just do your job.
And-
Right?
and
because the
I
trailer
look
needs
at
to
it
be
kind of.
clean.
Yeah, I always kind of just look at it as put a little common sense into it.
Right.
That's my dad always used to kind of just said. Just kind of look at it from a common sense point of view. Kind of like, is that a smart thing to do?
Right.
That type of thing.
So that's where you get back to, okay, is it just being in a hurry?
Yeah.
Right? Was
Yes.
someone just in a
You're in
hurry?
a hurry.
Did I just need to pee so bad? This was the best spot I could find because I wasn't thinking.
Yeah, and
right?
That's what I'm saying is you're getting off, and then you're stopping on a snow-packed road.
Right.
Come on, I mean loaded. I mean you ain't going anywhere.
Right.
I always used to sit there and tell everybody, if you get to the top, you can always slide to the bottom. So just get to the top at least.
Yeah.
Get to the top.
Yeah.
I guess that's what I'm saying. Crazy. I mean, it's just stuff like that.
Yeah.
Just.
I think
those
bonehead
things.
is not too rough
Yeah,
of a
it's
description.
just kind of like
Yeah.
I don't want people to listen to that, because I've done bonehead things too. I mean,
We all
believe
have.
me. I mean, I've done it to where like that's when you sit back and look at it like, man, I can do that again.
Right.
Just kind of like I shouldn't watch that. So
no doubt. Well, here's a list of drivers that have been accident free for 2022. And when I mean accident free, that includes no seatbelt tickets, no overweight tickets, no safety violations, stuff like that.
Nice.
Okay. So here we go. Francisco Alvarez, Jesse Baeza, Johnny Beret, Charlie Baran, Chris Beam, Gilbert Benny, Nat Bisignano, Dale Boyce. He's not driving anymore, but he was accident-free the whole time he was last year.
Nice.
Mike Bortz, Ron Bugler, Miguel Castrejón, Seabass, Ray Davis, Jack Domenico, Vincent Elisario, Gene Freeman, Jamie Gallegos, Jason Gamage, Rosario Garcia, big surprise on that one, Rick Ray, Casey Guthrie, Troy Holmes, Troy Hunt, Don Keller, Tony Martinez, Alan Martinez, Leo Montez, Thomas Morgan, Russ Murphy, Paco Nahara. I've noticed he was on both lists. There's probably some other people on both lists,
Yeah.
but I just noticed Paco's on both
Right.
lists.
Only because we talked about him a couple weeks ago, too.
Yeah, so accident-free and perfect attendance. Thomas Nuanes, Jack Oquenda Mejia, both lists. Dwayne Potter, both lists. Fred Powell, both lists. Alex Reza, Marty Rios, both lists. Dustin Romero, Gerardo Sanchez, Dwayne Sand, Kurt Spencer, Mike Tafoya, Herb Turner, both lists. Jesus Varela, Manny Velasquez, Jimmy V, Rob White, both lists. Andrew Martinez and Emilio Camacho. So great job, guys, for being accident free. We appreciate that. You should have all received your safety bonuses for all 4 quarters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Great job, everyone.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah, what's that safety bonus equate to? $1,000 over a year?
Oh yeah,
some-
because I think mine is. I think
More
mine
than
is
that.
over that. Yeah.
Some guys probably hit. If you're a top earner and
Yeah,
you hit all
top
4
earner,
quarters,
yes.
about $2,000.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty good incentive for, Bill Belichick. Just do your job, right?
I ain't lying. Last week I had to take that load to Akron, and I'm loaded up at Arcosa.
Arcosa, yeah.
Arcosa, got up there. I was never been up there before, so go up there, and the guy's like loading, and he's on the CB, and I'm like, hey, I'm watching the gauges, and I'm thinking, okay, they should get the front a little heavier.
Wait a minute. Here's my sarcasm, Jack. You're watching what?
the gauges because
What are those? What are those?
I'm just
I
trying
have
to
to be sarcastic, man, because I have to drive that point home. I don't mean to interrupt your story, but you know me on that.
I'm doing the load gauges, and I'm on the seat, and I kind of tell him I want the front end. I go, I still need the front a little heavier. Oh no, pull forward or whatever, and he gets it all on the back end, and so I'm kind of looking at the gauge, and the gauge says 38, like 8. I'm like, okay, so pull around, and as I'm pulling on this guy, I'm pulling slow because I want to axle real quick. I just want to look at him, just so I'm writing them down real quick. So I get him. I'm like 70, like 78 something gross or whatever. So okay, so I pull off and I get the calculator and I do the calculator, and I'm showing 38.9, I think. Well, then as I'm sitting there level, the gauge is reading 36.7, I think. So I'm thinking, God, the front equals out the same. Was it like 28 something or whatever? So then I'm like, I'm going to the port, and him and Han. I'm like, should I go off the calculator? Or should I go? I'm like, nah, I'm going off the calculator. I'm going back ends heavier or whatever. So I did. I drove around the port because I'm thinking, I'm close to the end of the year. It's the same thing, but I don't want to pull in there. And then
Right.
I got the new truck. It has a new license plate. It has the temporary tag on it. That's just those guys in the port.
That's just being asked to be
Yes,
called into the
exactly.
port,
And then I'm
yeah.
just like, if I can do it,
You're not in the system,
And then I'm
yeah.
trying to think, what's the way around out there? And then I'm thinking, oh wait, it's Q Road, and I finally remembered to get off. So I did. I just drove around it. I mean, it took me a little longer, but I thought it's just.
Yeah.
For the extra time, it's just less of a headache. I drive around. Even when I hear scales, I'll drive around them if I can, because I just don't want to. A lot of guys are like, "Oh, there ain't nothing wrong," but it's just
Allegedly. Allegedly.
people.
Off the
I
record.
always look at it as they can find something if they want to.
Oh, they can.
Yeah, they can always find something.
Absolutely.
So and no matter how much you try to do it, you might not do it their way.
Yes.
It's their way, and they have
it's interpretation.
exactly,
isn't it?
and
Yeah.
they have the badge and you don't.
Yes.
And stuff. So that's what I try to do. So I always just try to plan. Okay, how am I going to do this?
Right.
That type of
Yeah.
thing. So
Super Dave, did you want to talk about raising the bar since we were talking about perfect safety records? And I know your conversation with Lloyd Chacon sparked a conversation between us. You want to talk about that for a little
Yeah,
bit?
absolutely. So Lloyd is a gentleman that has worked here in the past, and he's coming back to work here again. But by trade, he's a heavy equipment operator / driver. He's worked in heavy construction scenarios his whole entire life. And so we were talking in this moment the other day about our job requirements and, what he's been doing since he left and so forth. And it kept on coming back time and time again. He was so proud that over a lifetime, and I think he's like 40 something years older. I think he's 38 years old at any rate. He has a 100% perfect safety record. And these are in environments working with high voltage power lines, working in heavy equipment in construction sites. And we all know how crazy construction sites can be, with things going on all around you. And working for large world-leading companies like Kiewit Construction and Sturgeon Electric. And these companies have very, very stringent safety rules and regulations. If you screw up, you're fired. Even if it's something super simple, you tied your shoes wrong or something practically, right? But again, he was so proud of a perfect safety record over 20 years in this business. And I would love to throw a challenge for 2023 out to everybody to raise your bar and motivate to have a perfect safety record for 2023. Double check, pay attention, do all those things that we talk about over and over and over. But as in Dave's winter weather truck driving tips, the last paragraph of that article was none of it's good if you don't do it. You have to follow those tips and tricks every time. Every time you're out in the snow, or every time you're working around heavy equipment, or every time you go off the pavement into a construction site. You've got to follow all of those rules and all of those things. And they're there to keep us all safe. And let's all be proud of a perfect safety record, because it's not impossible. It's completely achievable, but you just have to work at it and pay attention. So that's your challenge, everybody, for 2023.
Nice. Good challenge.
Good job.
Tips and tricks. Ray had some more tips and tricks for us this week.
Ray is the tips and tricks master, isn't he?
Man, I'm excited to see what he does with the training.
Yeah.
He's supposed to put some meetings together and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So he said, in regards to snow removal, when you're pushing up a pile of snow and you start not to be able to push anymore, don't just floor it and spin the tires till you can't go anymore. Bump the blade up a little and take a little less aggressive bite and do another pass. Spinning the tires are only making the tires wear down. Also, when you're pushing into a pile, don't run into the pile so hard. We have loaders to pile it up higher. All you're doing is putting wear and tear on the trucks. I know this is music to your ears, Brother Dave.
It is. It is. Yeah.
Good stuff. Thanks, Ray. Sue, you want to hit us with the high road hauling?
Absolutely. So this is something that we talk about a lot. Brother Dave and I were talking about it the other day. And I thought, man, what a perfect high road hauling this would be. So let me ask you a question. What leads to bad decision making? And Jam, I want you to quote a pastor of yours that said this to you, or to probably a bunch of people, but what was that quote? I love it.
Yeah, let's see. Let me think real quick. Andy Stanley, he says, based on my past experiences, my current circumstances, and my hopes and dreams for the future, is the decision I am making wise?
Absolutely. And it comes down to this. We are all one decision away from blowing up our life.
Yeah, one bad decision away.
Right. So what leads to bad decision making? There's many things: mental shortcuts, poor comparisons, optimism bias, automatic thinking, individual differences, past experiences that might lead us down the wrong path. Decision fatigue is when somebody just says, "Oh, what the hell? I don't care," So all of those things contribute to poor decision making. And so people make thousands of decisions every day, and some are big and some are small. Well, some of these choices turn out great, some of them not so great. So when you look back, you may wonder why you made those poor decisions, right? Particularly the ones that led to accidents, injuries, loss, or feelings of regret. And while it goes without saying, you probably continue to make bad decisions from time to time. I mean, we all do. But when you gain deeper understanding of the processes behind these, you will hopefully learn how to make better decisions. So we're going to go over some of those things that I just read, and perhaps it'll ring some bells and contribute for you to make better choices. So mental shortcuts. If you had to think through every possible scenario for every possible decision, you probably wouldn't get much done that day. In order to make decisions quickly and economically, your brain relies on a number of cognitive shortcuts known as heuristics. Heuristics are mental rules or shortcuts that allow you to make judgments quickly and oftentimes quite accurately, but they can also lead to fuzzy thinking and poor decisions. One example is called anchoring bias. This is when you use a known value for something, such as an advertised price, or to make a purchase of a similar item. And you can also modify this anchoring bias by coming up with a range of possible estimates. So one example is if you're buying a new car, you can come up with a range of reasonable prices rather than focusing on the overall average price of a particular vehicle. Another thing people do is they make poor comparisons. Comparison is one tool that people use when making decisions. But what happens when you make a poor comparison? Let's just say you could save $25 on a $75 item by driving 15 minutes out of your way. Sounds good. You'd probably do that, right? But what if you could save $25 off of a $10,000 item by driving 2 hours out of your way? Way more out of your way, but not a big enough reason to do that. $25 on $10,000. So even though both examples involve the same amount of savings, they're quite unequal. So to avoid making bad decisions, relying on logic and thoughtful examination of the options can sometimes be more important than relying on your immediate gut reaction. Another one called optimism bias. I thought, what the heck is that? Surprisingly, people tend to have a natural-born optimism that can hamper good decision-making. For example, if a person predicts that the odds of dying from smoking cigarettes is only 5%, but then they're told that the real risk of dying is closer to 25%, they will likely ignore the new information and stick with the initial estimate because it bodes better well for the smoker.
Yeah, what was that one called, Dave?
Optimism bias.
Optimism bias. Interesting.
So part of this overly optimistic outlook stems from a natural tendency to believe that bad things happen to others, but not to us. And I just laughed when that happened because that doesn't happen to me. It happens to that other guy, right? But when people hear about something tragic or unpleasant happening to another person, they often look for things the person might have done to cause the problem. This tendency to blame victims protects people from admitting they're just as susceptible to the tragedy as anyone else. And automatic thinking, people sometimes engage in actions almost on autopilot without even giving them much thought at all, particularly when performing routine tasks. This automatic thinking can save time and cognitive resources, but sometimes lead to poor choices. And the first thing I thought about was that dude that was jumping out of the airplane, Dave. That was an automatic thing. He had done it 1,000 times, 10,000 times.
People,
And then his automatic thinking completely, he didn't think, right?
Yeah, turned off.
Yep, turned off.
You can kind of relate that to where we cleaned out the material at Plant 12.
Right?
I mean, very similar.
Yes, exactly, yeah. Individual differences. Older people, and this is funny because I'm an older guy, older people make different choices than younger people. It's like, what did that kid just do? That was stupid. But anyway, for various reasons. And the options often point to people who are a different age group or depend on different financial resources and many other things for the individual different decisions that people make. Another issue is past experiences. Very often people who make poor choices do it over and over and over again because they use the same judgment as they have in the past. So they don't reevaluate the set of new circumstances. So always consider those new circumstances each time. Don't just rely on the past. And decision fatigue, which we mentioned also, many decisions people make each day can take a toll, creating stress that often leads to decision fatigue. This fatigue can lead people to choose randomly or let others choose when they're faced with a choice. And confirmation bias. Confirmation bias is a type of cognitive bias in which people favor information that confirms their existing beliefs. This bias leads people to ignore data that contradict their current thinking, contributing to distorted perceptions of reality instead of based on decisions on all the facts. So that one there is a big one because people tend to do what they believe in and they don't look at all the facts, right? So how to make better decisions? While some of the factors that lead to bad decision making are difficult to eliminate, there are steps that you can take to make better choices. And some of these strategies can be helpful. Prioritize important decisions. Eliminate distractions. Consider all of the options, not just a few that sound better than others. Take a break and come back later. That always seems to help when you're struggling on a mechanical issue or something. Get up and go take a walk. Come back and all of a sudden it works itself out, right? And ask for outside input. Get some other ideas from people. As we say often, two heads are better than one, even if one's a meathead, right? So
Definitely.
Definitely. It's impossible to make perfect choices all of the time. There are strategies you can use to minimize bad decision making. Being aware of some of the many factors that contribute to bad decisions is one of the best ways to become a better decision maker. And the quote today is from Theodore Roosevelt. Teddy Roosevelt has some of the best quotes. That dude was walking around saying stuff all the time that rings even 100 years later, right? In any moment of decision, the best thing you can do is the right thing. The next best thing is the wrong thing. And the worst thing you can do is nothing at all. So there you have it, guys. Let's try to make better decisions tomorrow.
Yes, awesome. Jack, you got any final thoughts before we get out of here?
No, I mean, just like all the new drivers, just like we talked about, give it a shot, whatever. Like it says, it might fit, it might not, whatever, that type. Also to like the dispatchers, because that's a job that I did for Vic for a while too. That's a tough job. So kudos to all them because everything rolls onto them. And you know, and the last thing they want to hear is complaining from drivers. So I think that, and that's probably about it. Just, you know, thanks for having me up here. And
thank you.
I hope I gave some people some stuff.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Yeah. You were a valued guest.
Absolutely.
Brother Dave?
Yeah, so final thoughts, man. Beginning of 2023, we're 4 days in already, right? Can you believe that? We're down to what, 361 days left?
It's going to be Christmas soon.
Right? Yeah, absolutely. We'll be trying to decide what's going to be for lunch that day, right?
Right.
So I guess my thoughts for 2023, and Dave kind of inspired me a little bit, but like he said, raise your bar. And I guess what I mean by that, I'm going to go back to, you know, exactly what we were talking to Vic.
That's all right.
Talking to Jack about is just do your job. You know, when we trained you to clean out from hauling salt. You need to sweep that trailer out to haul sand. You know, when you're hauling chicken shit, there's a dead chicken in it. You need to clean it out before you go get a load of rock, right? Right? When you deliver that material, let's deliver it to the location that they wanted it, not 200 yards away, right? And I guess, you know, I just love that analogy, Jam, is, you know, I ordered 2 pizzas from Domino's and I opened up the box. One was full. The next box was missing 2 slices and the 2 slices were in the driveway. I mean, that is the perfect. You would be pissed off if that happened to you.
Yeah.
I would be, you know, well, so is our customer.
Right.
It's not right. You know, you paid for 10 chicken wings. You want 10 chicken wings, and let's get them to the plate. Right.
Absolutely.
So, you know, those are the small things that when I say raise your bar, is it really raising your bar or is it just doing it right? You know, do your job, do it right. We talk about clearing that fence post, or that gate post. We went out at 5,000 times, but we only hit it once. We shouldn't hit it. You're sitting here, Jack. You just told a story about, sounded like down on Santa Fe and Dartmouth. Is that where it sounded like the guy drug a trailer? Right, halfway down the wall or 100 feet down the Jersey barrier. It sounds like, and you think to yourself, how on earth did that happen? And we've had those incidents here, and like we were trying to discuss. You don't want to be critical and go, well, that was a bonehead move, but it was a bonehead move. Where were you? What were you looking at? What were you focused on? Were you distracted? All of those things. And I guess when I say raise your bar, I don't necessarily know that it's raise your bar. It's do your job. I make it sound super simple. And, one of the things Dave said in the quote, I don't know, it was towards the end there, Dave, about, making the perfect decision. Well, even if you don't make the perfect decision, it's not the wrong decision. Right. You know what I'm saying? You can make maybe not the best decision, right? But it still worked out. You didn't harm anybody. There was no foul. You could have done it better. So I think a lot of your failures, Jack, when you talk about them, like you may think it's a bonehead move, and in your criteria or your bar, it may have just been a bad move for you.
Yeah.
For someone else, they wouldn't have thought twice about it. Like, oh, that was no big deal, right?
Exactly.
Versus, dragging your trailer up on the Jersey barrier for 100 feet. Those are bonehead moves. So I guess that's what I ask. That's a goal. That's something to shoot for. Dave kind of started it, and it just bled right over to me that we need to do that. 2023 should be a safety challenge. I think that's our next step. We're so blessed to have the cameras. Again, I keep going back to the interview we did this morning with Coleman, and for a 23-year-old young man, he was worried about the cameras. Where he drove before, they didn't have cameras, and he's like, "Oh man, they're going to be watching me all the time, and they're going to be this." And I think initially that's what a lot of the people think, and I'm generalizing, but we hear that a lot, and I guess I just want to emphasize and echo the same words he said this morning are the same words a lot, or the majority of the other drivers have always said, is those cameras have made me better.
Exactly.
They've
made me better. It's
made me realize, oh, maybe I am following just a little too close. Oh, maybe I should slow down. Oh, it's just that help. And I love the fact that we actually bought a tool. It works, right, and it has helped us, right? It actually made us better. We have so many investments that we make here that unless they're used, they were a waste of money. We talk about the gauges, and I kept interrupting Jack during his story. Like, you're doing what while you're loading? You're looking at what are those? And I'm being sarcastic because that's how I'm based, but oh my gosh, we preach about those gauges constantly, and they're such a valuable tool.
They are.
And at instant notice, you look at them, and they do change. I mean, you have to be on level ground.
Yes, they fluctuate, right? And that's what I was going off of. But I just figured this is what I'm going to go with.
Right. Exactly. So I guess that's it in a nutshell, not to drone on. When I say raise your bar, be as good as you can be the way we trained you, do the things we trained you with. We talk about someone, for example, that didn't do their pre-trip before they left, or they didn't do their post-trip when they parked. Well, you did it to get your driver's license. Why wouldn't you continue to do that? I mean, it's like getting a loan for a house and not making your house payments and going, well, I didn't know I had to make the house payment.
I forgot.
Yeah. So, there's just...
shoot, I forgot.
Right. Why is the bank calling, dear?
Sometimes it's just you get in a hurry, and I've done that before. And then all of a sudden, you come in the next day, and that tire's flat. No, it can't be. I know, but it happens. You stay focused, I guess you should say. Focus.
Soup, any other final thoughts?
Yeah. I would like to see everybody focus on that safety challenge. And one way that you can do that is think like an old guy. Because an old guy is always thinking about the consequences. What happens if I do this? And what's the outcome? And a young guy doesn't think that way. They just think about the adrenaline and how exciting it's going to be, and they just go forward. They just maybe they don't think, right?
The old guy has more of those past experiences.
Think like an old guy. There you go.
I kind of have to argue that a little bit, Dave. I agree with what you're saying about the old guy maybe taking a little more time or a little slower at things versus the young guy. But
you think about
there's that level of person.
consequences.
Yes, there's still that level of person. You have to have that instilled in you from a young age. You know what I mean? And I feel like I'm droning on about Coleman when we interviewed him this morning. He had that. He's 23. I mean, we've already sent him, over the hill 2 or 3 times hauling salt. And he had that. He's like, I didn't know how fast. He said, I had half the truck on snowpack and the other half on the road. I wasn't sure how fast to go. So I was going slow and using caution. I was afraid to go any faster, and that is what you're looking for. And I don't know I think when you're a crazy young man, you learn that as you get older, but some people do have it.
Some people never learn it.
Exactly.
I'll agree there.
Exactly, Dave.
Some people don't. It's
Yeah, and
just-
I'm not after rebutting or arguing what you said because there are facts to it. But I think some people, when you think about it, they can think through that. They can reason through that.
My final thoughts for the first podcast of this year. So for 2023, and I'm saying this to myself just as much as I'm saying it to everybody else, but let's deal with things head on, have open, honest, respectful conversations, show other people grace, make good decisions, and give our very best. That's all I got.
Nice. Sounds like we're ready for the creed.
Ready for
Yes.
the creed.
All right. Together we face
And overcome all that stands before us.
Together we are accident-free.
Together
we joyfully create honest value for those we serve. Together we celebrate our differences and respect those with whom we work. Together we are accountable for our words and our actions. And together we are the JFW family.
All right.
All right.
See you next week, everybody.
Have a great week,
Thanks
everybody.
for listening.
Have a nice week.